Great Garvey Day, brothers and sisters. Today I will be Great Garvey Day, brothers and sisters. Today I'll be reading from Lesson 11, Message to the People, African Philosophy. And today's lesson is called Man. Man, because of his sin, which caused him to have fallen from his high estate of spiritual cleanliness to the level of a creature who acts only for his own satisfaction by the gift of free will, must be regarded as a dangerous creature of life. When he wants, he can be good, otherwise, he is generally bad. In dealing with him, you must calculate for his vices and his damnable evils. He is apt to disappoint you at any time. Therefore, you cannot wholly rely on him as an individual. Always try to touch him with the hope of bringing out that which is good, but be ever on your guard to experience the worst that is in him, because he is always in conflict with himself, as between good and evil. When he can profit from evil, he will do it and forget goodness. This has been his behavior ever since the first record of his existence and his first contact with his fellows. Cain slew Abel for his success. Jacob robbed Esau of his birthright, and down through the ages of human history, man has been robbing, exploiting, and murdering man for gain. Therefore, do not completely trust him, but watch him. When he is good, try to keep him good, although he may not always remain good. If he is bad, avoid him. If you have no business with him to the extent of being too much in his company, always try to reform him and use his good influence on him, because the hope of life is to produce a better man. The passion of man is in evidence everywhere. It revolts against affection, kindness, and even love when it has a personal object to attain. We have heard and read of the children murdering their parents for gain, and parents murdering their children in a similar manner. We have heard of wives killing their husbands and husbands killing their wives for gain. This reveals how wicked man can be. When we discuss man, we discuss the creature and not the particular individual whom we know, love, and can trust. Man, therefore, is the abstract creature who is vile until we know him personally. Seek first to know him before you completely trust him, because you are apt to be disappointed. A man shakes your hand today, and tomorrow he is chief witness against you for execution. What it is that has caused him to do that? It is his vileness. Know it then that he is vile, and only when you know him sufficiently may you trust him as far as your judgment would dictate. He is apt to change on you, and probably at the psychological moment when you need his help most. Therefore, in dealing with man, trust your own character and your own judgment more than depending absolutely on his. For most of the time, his advice to you is wrong and calculating, so as to put you at a disadvantage. Hear everything from man, but do not believe everything until you have tested it for yourself. The history of the world shows that man has been the chief murderer or killer. He has killed more creatures than any other being. He plans his murders, which he may execute on individuals or a large group of men, and he generally does this for profit: national profit, racial profit, political profit, or economic profit. He is so vile that he no longer depends upon his physical strength to execute his vileness or to defend himself. He manufactures the most deadly weapons to do the deed quickly while seeking self protection from a similar attack. Therefore, contemplate the state of his mind. Contemplate that he would calmly, coolly, and collectively invent an instrument or chemical purposely designed to kill his fellows at a point where they may not harm him, to gain the property and possessions of his fellows. Can anything be more diabolical? No other animal sinks to the low, murderous levels. Hence, man must be stripped of his veneer to see the evil machinations of his mind, the mind that makes TNT, the mind that makes mustard gas, the mind that invents the Krupp gun, the Worcester rifle, the fast-proof caliber pistol, and poisons, all calculated to kill his brother. Do you not? Do you want anything more wicked? Now, can you realize how bad man is? If you do, then always be on guard, because you know not when the evil genius cometh. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. Therefore, know your man, so that even though he comes with a smile, find out what is behind the smile. It is only a foolish man who accepts another as his word without finding out something about him. Never fall in love at first sight and marry at the first opportunity. Never promise everything at the first request until you know the person is worthy of your promise. If if you prize your own good fortune, never pledge it on the first approach of any man, but follow him, investigate him, and when his conduct conduces with what he states, no, coincides with what he states and what he promises, you may take the chance of trusting him just so far. As proof of this, there are more unhappy marriages than happy ones. Although based upon the best of promises at the start, there are more unhappy relations between man than happy relations, simply because the evil mind of man cannot keep good always. It is generally evil. This gives you sufficient evidence that man is vile and only in remote instances good. If you know it, then why take the chance of always believing before seeing? The taste of the pudding is the proof of it. Know your man before you believe. Never believe before you know. Always let your mission to make man good. Therefore, talk to the man always from the loftiest pinnacle. You may convert somebody, you may turn a vile man good, and if you succeed in doing this in even one instant, you have accomplished a great work. Leadership in good character must make sacrifice to raise man from the lowest depths, but it is blind foolishness to sacrifice more than necessary. Therefore, redeem the man with the least amount of harm to yourself. Education. The present system of education is calculated to subjugate the majority and elevate the minority. The system was devised and has been promulgated by the agents of the minority. The system was carefully thought out by those who desire to control others to their benefit and to disadvantage of the others to the extent that the others would not immediately rise into happiness and enjoyment of life simultaneously and equally with them. It was never originally intended to make all the people equal at the same time. Even more so, what is not intended to elevate the darker races to the immediate standard of the white races. The minority sprung from the white race to establish the systems of education. Therefore, all textbooks and general literature are colored to suit the particular interests of those who established the system of education and the group they represent as against the interest of others, whom they do not want to immediately elevate to their standard. There is always a limited process in the education of other races by the race that originates the system of education. As for instance, if a Negro attends a university with other students of the race that, or, that originated or projects the educational system, why the Negro would have the privilege of the classroom for general instructions to learn commonly, he may not have the privilege of his fellow students of the other race, who may be admitted to certain club fraternities within the university from which he would be debarred. Such fraternities generally enjoy the privilege of special instructions and special discussions, which convey a wide range of enlightenment on the subject taught that would be possible to the Negro. Hence, when he graduates from the same textbooks, his technical knowledge is not as wide as that of others who would have fuller explanation in their technical interpretation of the particular textbooks, and at the same time is only trained to reflect the system that props the intentions of the creators of the system, so that at his best, he who is making use of his education is a slave to a system that was not intended for him, but to which he renders service. Therefore, it is necessary for the Negro to be additionally educated and re educated after he's imbibed the present system of education. The best way to do this is to educate him racially in the home, meeting hall, or his own club, where he will put under the closest scrutiny and analysis of what appears to be education as coming from other people, because their system of education may not completely fit into the Negro's idea of his own preservation. But not being able to do this in the past, educated Negroes have not been able to assume proper leadership of their race because their education was to the nature to cause them to support the present system, which is of no advantage to the Negro, except as a servant, serf, and slave, for which purpose really the system was devised to a certain extent. This explains the behavior of leading Negro intellectuals who are not able to dissect the educational system of others and who use that portion that would be helpful to the Negro race and to add to it for a complete curriculum that would be as satisfactory as a complete education for the race. Do not swallow wholly the educational system of any other group, except you have perfectly analyzed it and found it practical and useful to your group. There is still room for the Negro educational system, free from the prejudices that the present educational system upholds him against. Never fail to impress upon the Negro that he is never thoroughly educated until he has his embedded racial education. It is by education that we become prepared for our duties and responsibilities in life. If one is badly educated, he is naturally frail in the proper assumption and practice of his duties and responsibilities. The Negro fails in the proper assumption of his duties and responsibilities because he has been badly educated. He has universally failed to measure up to his duties and responsibilities as a man and as a race. His education has been uh, sub, subversive. He must know, he must know, he must now make his education practical and real. Hence, he must rearrange everything that affects him in his education to be of assistance to him in reaching out to his responsibilities and duties. As you shouldn't expect another man to give you the clothing that you need to cover your own body, you should not expect another race to give you the education to challenge their right to the monopoly and mastery to take for yourself that which they also want for themselves. If you are going to distrust the other man in his honesty because you know him to be dishonest, then you must maintain the attitude in every respect. For if he is dishonest in one, he may be dishonest in all. If he will rob you of your wages, he will also rob you of your education. That would enable you to know that he's robbing you of your wages. Trust only yourself and those you know and those who look like you. Those who look like you are related to you ought to be known first before you know others. There may be good grounds for a common education for all groups in a commodity such as a civic education, politic, political, and social education. But the detailed education that teaches man how to live to the highest and enjoy the best is pa- particular education, and that particular education is always reserved for those who want to gain an advantage. Therefore, if in no other way in particular, secure education and have your own, such as the Jews who have outside of any common education a particular and peculiar education of their own, which arguments or adds to or modifies the common education that they have gathered in the community with others. By the view or the fact that the Jew gets a dual education, the education of the state and the education of the race, he is always in a new position to worsen or to better his compatriots of another race in the community. He is always making more out of everything than the Gentile because he knows all about the Gentile, while the Gentile knows nothing about him. And that, brothers and sisters, concludes lesson lesson 11 on man, which I think was a very befitting lesson. I have some key points that I want to highlight. So in this lesson, what I really took home with me was seek first to know him before you completely trust him, because you are apt to be disappointed. A man shakes your hand today, and tomorrow he is your chief witness against you for execution. I thought that was a powerful statement, because many of us fraternize with men or women, and we think we're on one accord with them, to only find out that they're not on the same wavelength as us. I found that particularly a key point to take home. Another key point I found: in dealing with him, you must calculate for his vices and his damnable evils. He is apt to disappoint you at any time. Therefore, you cannot wholly rely on him as an individual. I think the honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey was trying to teach us here that, like, man is only human, and he's fallible to many uh vices, and not make his word strong. Like, he will give you his word, then disappoint you at the last minute. So you cannot put all your trust in man until you get to know that man. Then also, he also gets biblical with it as well, when he says Cain slew Abel for his success. See, Cain was jealous of Abel because Abel took time to give himself and honor God. And when God blessed Abel and not Cain, Cain got jealous and killed Abel. So again, we have to know that man is very cunning, very wicked, and very wise. Another key point I like to highlight from the chapter we just read on man is: hear everything from man, but do not believe everything until you have tested it for yourself. So, you know, I'll give an example in my life that happened last week. So last week was the reparations conference that was held in Holborn, and I had it on good information from a man that they were actually giving out money there, that this was it. So if I had studied before going to this conference, I would have actually found out that there was no reparations given. It was just another get together on how close we are, how near we are. We're almost going to get reparations, and this, that, and the other. So again, hear everything from man, but do not believe everything until you have tested it for yourself. Another thing, or how man manufactures weapons, like the nuclear bomb, to kill his fellow man. Like, man, if we don't study man, man will be our destruction. Like, as it says in the chapter here, he's so vile that he no longer depends upon his physical strength to execute his vileness, or to defend himself. He manufactures the most deadly weapons to do the deed quickly, while seeking self-protection from from a similar attack. That was powerful. Like, the invention of the gun, the bombs, the grenades, like, even biochemical diseases, what they spread through the air. Man is really killing his fellow man at an alarming rate. He does. Before, he would send an army of men to go in and rape, loot, and pillage. Now it's just a push of a button, and destruction is met. So another key line I like here: to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And I think we've all seen the red flags in man. Like when you were disappointed, we saw the red flags and we chose to ignore. And we end up being hurt and disappointed that we put so much trust, so much faith in the man, and the man let us down. Another key point I would like to highlight is never fall in love at first sight and marry at the first opportunity. Never promise anything at the first request until you know the person is worthy of promise. Again, in the community, we tend to fall in love with what we hear and not what we've seen. And this has led to many a failed marriage between man and woman. So again, we need to take time, we need to study, and we need to be diligent in our dealings in all aspects of life. So I'm gonna pause there right now, and I'm gonna open up the airways to our honorable President General and brother Sando, who might want to chime in and give their own interpretations of how they found lesson 11, man.
Great Garvey Day.
Great Garvey Day.
Yes, sir. And first race.
Race first.
Yes, sir. That's what I want to hear. Greetings also to Brother Sando, uh, along with Honorable President Franklin, race first himself, the embodiment of race first. Yeah, I found that lesson. I think not only one of them, always say every week is the most powerful, but I think this lesson is one of the most philosophical, if nothing else. When you look at like some of the ancient prophets and philosophers of old, um, and they talk about man's relationship to man and how to view the world from a particular viewpoint. I think this is the one lesson that probably encapsulates a lot of the general lessons about man and humanity and our relationship to one another. It prepares us for thinking in a proper format as leaders of the association because too often we are too trusting. We see in others what we want to see in ourselves, and we kind of expect them to be like some better people that we know because they sound alike, they look alike, they kind of remind us of good old cousin so and so, or just he looks just like my father. So I'm going to just trust him right away, and we wind up getting a life lesson out of that. that just because folks look alike don't mean they act alike, or that they are on the level of the soul of the same character as the people we know. So sometimes it's good to hope for the best, but expect the worst, and you'll be prepared. When man is inhumane toward other men. Um, and so, anyway, I think the lessons were it covered a great degree of information. I mean, on education of man, education of our people, because we certainly know in traditional Africa, one of our greatest problems was our trust in other people who came from abroad. We were expecting them to be of the same good moral standing and character as we were, and wouldn't expect them to lie and cheat and steal because people don't do that. But we got in for a rude awakening when we found out otherwise, and it cost us hundreds of years of death and destruction of our communities, families, nations, etc. So as to not make those same mistakes again and to learn our lesson. It's important to understand the carnal nature sometimes of a man. We have a great capacity if we are disciplined to do good and righteous things, but we also have that inclination on the inside to be destructive and do harmful things. So we are clear about that. That yeah, we'll definitely succeed. And one of the first things I was looking at when I read the chapter on man was One of my favorite songs by Robert Nesta Marley. Man to man is so unjust. Children, you don't know who to trust. Which also, of course, was a poem by Marcus Garvey back in 1927 while he was incarcerated. He made a poem that said, "Man to man, I say, yes, man to man is so unjust until we know not whom to trust. For we have made to life a lie in treating man less than a fly. To tell the reason why it's so, into history we must go, revealing crime just after crime from Cain and Abel to this time. Our God made man in perfect form and to the standard to conform. But in his ways of self alone, he crushed the good and built a throne. A regal personage is he, as proud and selfish as can be. Forgetting God, he robs and kills and lays the course of human ills. Is there no help that we can give to brighten life and truth to live? Yes, there is much for you to do in treating man as Christ did you. If we should change the old bad way, the good will shine in us each day. Then life would be a happy dream and radiant, fair morning beam. Actually, that was October 25th. Almost what's that? 97 years ago. Um, anyway, but yeah, but man to man definitely is unjust. So anyway, we need to keep our guards up and make sure we ever vigilant. Not rely wholly upon people until they've demonstrated their trustfulness and that they're reliable enough. I don't trust everybody. I may love everybody, but yeah, only certain people like Race First can give me a Garveyite promise, and I know he's good for it, and he's gonna do exactly as he say he does. Same thing with my beloved brother Sando. He's good as reliable as can be. He said he's gonna do something, he does it. And so it's good to have good, trustworthy people with you in your circle. And so anyway, I don't want to hog the mic, but definitely this is a powerful subject for me, and I'll yield with that thought.
Yeah, thank you, President General, for your words of wisdom and how you seen it there. And I would like to I'd like to add on to what you just said that I suppose when you're trying to you know do great things and build organizations and you're looking for fellow men and women to come together and build, it's challenging. And I've seen with when I read and when I'm reading and when I'm studying and when I'm really looking at the literature that Tony Martin and others and Robert Hill have provided for us, and seeing like how the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey had to go around and deal with all kind of men, black men, white men, black men in with white faces coming to come and derail the movement. Meeting with the Ku Klux Klan, getting criticized for that. It really makes me think like this work that we are trying to do is, yeah, it's not a small feat. It's very challenging. We need to have our guards up at all times because even in this work that we're doing right now, we can be disappointed. Life will get in the way, will try and throw a curveball or obstacle. And you have to know within yourself that you are built for this journey. This journey is a long road with many pits, many valleys and obstacles within the way. So we have to keep on beating the drum. And as a man, as men, as man, as woman, we need to really stand on business regardless. Like as I read through the chapter, and when we even talk about education for the for us as a race, like we cannot be educated by them. Like the black man and woman needs to have to be taken on two separate notes, and analyzing the notes and scrutinizing the notes and going back and restudying and learning the notes again, those from the dominant society and those that we're reading ourselves as we go on this course of Garveyism, that we are equipped to the best of our ability to tackle all obstacles ahead.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as you were talking, I was thinking about Mr. Garvey's experiences in life. When he prepared these lessons for the future leaders of the association, he wanted them to have the benefit of some of the experiences and lessons he's learned over the years in building the greatest movement for improvement that ever existed. And so, after having experienced the betrayal by many of his top officers, in the association, even on the assistant president general level, who try to conspire with his enemies to undermine, and in many cases they were jealous, they were uh, covetous, they were envious of his power and position, and wanted to take certain things from him that they couldn't build themselves. And and these are the nature of people that we come in contact with. We don't know the trauma and the psychology behind everybody who comes in and talks the right way and walks the right way, but maybe all the while conniving and trying to get their way into some position that glorifies their ego or something along that line. They may look sincere, but you can't always trust it. But to have these uh, black lawyers who were unscrupulous and try to get him to cop a plea to something he didn't do, and to lie on himself so that the public will, hear an admission of guilt of Mr. Garvey, that he's deceived the people into buying stock in the Black Star Line, etc., and then get deported out of the country. This would be all they needed to discredit and disrupt and decentralize the movement. But he refused to go for that, and he, didn't trust in his lawyers, and as they were trying to get him to do, and all those snakes got rewarded by his enemies with elevated positions, etc., promotions. Same thing with the black captains who were trying to deceive and play a whole bunch of games, and who were not honorable men, who were trying to get money every chance they could out of this operation rather than make it work by sacrificing and doing as much as they can for the movement. Even on a level two, if dealing with, he talks about even not marrying and falling in love on first sight. He and Amy Ashwood, were almost love at first sight. Very close companions since they first met, and felt like star-crossed lovers. And then we know, of course, that less than a month after she got married to him, that she was unfaithful to him, and he had tried to annul the wedding. But on those types of levels, you always have to be mindful of being evenly yoked with people, even though it might be good people. And you don't have to call them bad because they do something that was wrong or unfaithful. They still have a lot of endearing qualities and all that kind of stuff. But when you have a certain expectation of honesty and fairness, and being upfront about certain things, and that person is not of the same disposition, then it's gonna spell ruin within a short period of time. Is like the Bible talks about the being unevenly yoked, and you can imagine if you have a bull on a yoke that's tied next to say a dog, and they both have to carry a plow or a cart. The bull is going to be a lot faster and stronger, and the little dog is going to be choked trying to hold on and hang in with that bull, and it's going to cause all kinds of misdirection of the cart or whatever you're pulling, because they're not both strong of the same build, height, etc. So you don't want to just see first pretty lady and hey, or the first handsome guy and think this is the one for me. I'll overlook everything and I'll just get what I want out of the relationship because they look good and smell good, so I guess they are good. But but you ain't had a chance to really get to know that person. You will come in for a rude awakening. So um, the lessons that Mr. Garvey prepared is just so thoughtful. As I look at them, that he thought of everything. He's seen some of his best people. It have a great mind, great attitude, great everything, but it's that personal relationship of theirs that caused their ruin, that made them go through what they went through and caused them to be a very little use to the organization because they were busy stressing and worrying about this, that, and the other. So with those experiences, you got to know, as the other song says, about the backstabbers. They smile in your face all the while they want to take your place.
Hey, that's a big tune. Yeah.
And that's before your time, race for only Sando and I are supposed to know about that song. But yeah, that's a real thing. And but and two, Mr. Garvey, when he covered miseducation in this piece, it wasn't focused on the education, but it was about the education of man. And it's the part he was talking about, someone who robs you of your wages are naturally going to rob you of the education that you need to know that they're robbing you of your wages. To know how to count, to know how to, what laws apply, and etc. So, or as I think it was Dr. Clark used to say, no master teaches their pet to bite them. No race of people is going to teach another race that were once their slaves to rise up and be equal with them on any capacity. So we have to be aware of the fact that we want to have a set of racial ideals, that we need our own racial education in order to aspire to those ideals. And so we can't accept every Western value, every Western idea as being of benefit to us because it was never intended that way. And so those of us who kind of blindly go along with that, in many cases, wind up thinking that our friends are our enemies and that our enemies are our friends. And once they got you misled and confused and not know which, what to do, who you are, where you're going, it's over. So anyway, just a couple thoughts that I got out of the publication. See, Sister Nyasha got uh, on the call on the podcast. Great
Race
God, we go
first.
race first. How you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm perfect, if not better. No.
Great. That is the I'd also say blessed and highly favored, I bet, as well. So
Oh yeah, that's good. Always
race
a good
first,
thing.
brothers and brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's funny because, race first, brother Frank, has, really knuckled down on us in terms of getting us to study. So I try and listen to something when I'm driving. Mainly, I drive quite a lot for work, and I'm reading Race First, or listening to Race First, and it just feels like the type of book that is just about the downtroddenness of Marcus Garvey, about our people. So an organization that he built. This is just my perspective. An organization that he built for us to be able to have, do, and be better people, and be race first. But the man, when it comes to the man, the amount of people that, as you said, just stabbed him in the back consistently and didn't see the vision, and just in competition, and instead of trying to work together and work as one race and work as one voice, it was just like, how can we bring this man down? And I know that may have been in the minority, but unfortunately, negative tends to shine sometimes much more than positivity. And he went to jail a couple of times because of lies that people told, and just like being against him. The point I'm trying to make is that yes, you have to watch your back. And I always say to my children, they'll go to school and be like, "Oh, I got a new best friend. How long have you known this person? Where do you know this person?" Like, listen, you can't call everybody a best friend. They have to earn that title. So don't get too excited, because one minute they're your friend, the next minute they're somebody else's friend and they're not yours. So we just have to watch ourselves. But it's just a shame that we as human beings are like that, and we still have to go through this, and you really do have to be on guard when it comes to other people, because you never know their intention. You never know what's going on behind in their lives, behind closed doors, what's really going on in their mind. And people are very good at being chameleons as well. I'm not saying that we're perfect in the sense of what perfection should look like or feel like, or maybe deemed to be, but we still have to be on our guard when it comes to other people, because we just don't know how they are, and we do still have to study as a group and as a race. Just like you said in the end, when it comes to the Jews, they go and they do the social education, and then they come and do their own education, their race first education. And that, I think, having that kind of education will hopefully help to build a nation and build more trust within each other. But at the same time, you still have to be on guard, which is just how it is. But yeah, man is something. That's
Yeah,
my thought I want to share.
fully agree. See, the honorable commissioner came on as well. Uh,
Yes, sir. Great Garvey Day to you all.
yes, sir. Great Garvey Day.
How are you doing
Like
today,
Harvey
Mr.
Day.
President?
Perfect, if not better.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Garvey, Mr. Garvey say always think yourself a perfect race, and so
You have to
you
think
know,
yourself a perfect being too.
yeah, there you go, perfect being. Thanks for the correction. Now I'm gonna tell you one thing. One of these days, I guess when we get to that topic, I think that's a few more lessons up. We're gonna talk about that perfection concept, because many of us don't think that we can be perfect, and what their definition of perfect is based upon maybe like a biblical definition of perfection. Which if you're going to judge someone according to the Bible, yeah, then there's so many hundreds of commandments to go by, etc. Then you may feel at some point that you're not perfect and you can't do certain things. But when I refer to Mr. Garvey is like the perfecter of our faith. He was, in my view, according to my Bible, which is the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, he was the perfect man. He was the perfect organizer. He was the perfect black nationalist. So if you judge Jesus according to the philosophy and opinions, then he wasn't perfect. But you judge him according to the Bible, then he's perfect. Because that's what he was going by. That's what he tried to perfect, and he did a great job and perfected the faith. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm following Mr. Garvey's footsteps closely as possible and doing as much work as I can toward that line, then you call me perfect too. So I'm on just like some people say you can have a perfect student. If I teach you 2 + 2 is 4, then I come back and quiz you. What's 2 + 2? And you say 4, then you got a perfect score, which means you're a perfect student. And
I agree.
some things you can do perfectly. So again,
Yeah,
as they used to say, don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, and don't judge a monkey by its ability to swim. You judge a fish in its lane and a monkey in its lane, and you'll learn to appreciate the perfection in us. You want to say something, Sister Nyasha?
no, just laughing at your analogies. It was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
very smart. I like that. But I do also think that I agree with you. I see perfection not in the way that man does. It's just in I'm just that's why I compare sorry, that's why I'm comparing it to what most people will think. But I think that we are perfectly imperfect. How we are. And this is
Hmm.
how we're supposed to be. The way you're supposed to be is perfection. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
And that's just how I see it too. So I hear you on that.
And I think the brothers can agree. If you look at some of these sisters out here, and you see absolute perfection. Just to gaze at some of the beautiful
if
women
you're if
we have in our race.
we're going
Yeah,
by body alone, then yeah.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
But the more visually, not
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
character and
These
Mind,
are
personality.
the
visual
mind
people.
the mind is what makes them perfection. The mind, the mind.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, but yeah, I mean the study man, um, it reminded me when people when the COVID, came out and everybody was, talking about are you going to take the pill? Are you, it's made it a political thing out of it, and they were trying to say you don't believe in science because you're not taking the pill. And I said, of course I believe in science. What kind of fool do I look like? They say, but just because I believe in science, I don't believe in history. And history tells me that the ones who made that pill, I can't trust. So I don't care what the sciences say. My historical science tell me to trust my gut. And in that case, I'm not taking anything they say. They got to take it first and see what happens to them. Then maybe I'll come back. But you can't trust these folks. In fact, the Kwame Ture used to say, white folks lie. All they do is lie. They can't do anything but lie. Even when they tell the truth, is the result of a double lie. Just like two negatives make a positive when you multiply. He said you can't trust nothing they say. White man speak with forked tongue. So certain things you just gotta judge with a grain of salt. You have to be, seriously discerning about what you believe and not believe. So too often we just, want to go along and make no big deal out of it. But yeah, our lives are at stake, and so we need to be a little more discerning. And definitely even with when dealing with the man to man situation, as we deal with one another. We know we've been through some things. Our growing up a certain kind of way in the hood, and some of us didn't have the homes and structure that we wish we would have had. We had some traumatic experiences, even going way back to our enslavement, being beaten and abused and raped and all kinds of tortured and things over hundreds of years, and then expect us to be well behaved and principled and honorable people overnight is just not realistic. So some of us come into the movement with good intentions, but still some characteristics that we should have left out in the street. And so some of us come with all kinds of silly ego-centered thoughts and elitist attitudes, and we have all kinds of things we got to work through in order to be better people. But understanding that and not being shocked when certain things happen, helps prepare us to be better leaders of the people in the community, so that we can normally, we are keen enough, we can observe certain behaviors that kind of indicate other underlying thoughts and ideas, and we know how to protect the membership from certain people who come in to exploit them. So that kind of thing is wise. But yeah, that's something we gotta learn and appreciate about our history, so that we can make better judgment, better decisions.
Yes, sir, President General. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Uh, I would like brother Sando Brightstar to give us your illuminating thoughts on lesson 11, man. Like how you what you took away from it, sir.
He may be away from the computer, President Ray's first. But
Okay.
I haven't really gave my I don't know, my take on it. Like I was saying to you, every week it's like this is my favorite chapter. Because every chapter in this book is a favorite chapter. Do you know what I mean? But there's so much gems in this chapter for people. Like if people live by these lessons, like they live, for those that are religious, live to the Bible or live to the Quran. There's so much guidance in these lessons that if you follow these lessons, you can never go astray. You can never be misguided. You can't be a failure if you're listening to these lessons. This is why all the members should be studying these lessons. When it comes to a Sunday, You know, if they're not reading the lessons in the week, definitely on a Sunday, they need to be really, really studying these lessons, because these lessons are going to make you a complete being. You know, Elder mentioned perfection, or I think it was Sister Nyasha, I'm not sure, but we mentioned perfection. These lessons are going to make you a perfected being, brothers and sisters. Now, I'm not just saying that just for saying it. Now, there's these lessons are here for you, for me, for our children, for our great grandchildren, for our whole family, for our grandma, for our granddad, for everybody. There's wisdom in this. You know what I'm saying? Every week. So like looking at just flicking through it, although it's not in this chapter of man, Garvey said mankind will do wickedness the first chance they get. And when I understood that, my whole understanding changed slightly, because I no longer had certain expectations from people, because I knew that maybe they ain't had a chance to cross me yet. Give them the chance and they may cross me. You know, Garvey said, never fall in love at first sight. Trust the, you know that even the Bible says, trust the spirit, beloved. Learn from the people's spirit. Don't listen to what comes out of their mouth. Listen to people's actions. Listen to people's actions. So it says, therefore, in dealing with man, trust your own character and your own judgment more than depending absolutely on his. That's you know, we talk about intuition, we talk about discernment. We can't run away from these things, brothers and sisters. Now, these things are here. These things are here for us, you know, for us to progress in life. Hear everything from man, but do not believe everything until you have tested it for yourself. You know, brother Ray's first mentioned it about reparations. You know, we was told that they're giving money out at this conference, and I told him after something that I was told, and we went there, and it wasn't the case. It was just another get along with the get along crew. It was just another feel good crew. And with Garvey, we're not dealing with feel good. Garvey said chance has never satisfied man. You know what I'm saying? So we're not into all of that. He said the history of the world shows that man has been the chief murderer or killer. He has killed more creatures than any other being. So we know that that some man, not just any man, but there's a type of man on this earth that is wicked by nature, beloved. And we can see it by the action of the world. Even if we look in the world right now, you know, there's oppression still going on in the world in 2024. People are still starving. People are getting bombed. Even if you look at the Congo right now, I don't know if brothers and sisters have seen what's going on in Congo. You know, it's not really it's not a nice thing. You know, Garvey was talking about Cain and Abel. So even from the beginning of the time that they're documenting, they document Cain and Abel as the second human beings after Adam and Eve, and even from that time, there has been wickedness. You know, Garvey went on to talk about the bombs. Brother Frank mentioned it as well when he was talking about the mind of the man. This is why Garvey said, you know, intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden, brothers and sisters. You know, certain people don't have no natural resources in their land, but they use their mind to take away our natural resources. So the mind is a terrible thing to waste, as they say. You know, he mentions the weapons. I'm just going through. So this to me personally, I could just be reading this whole chapter over again for you guys, or you brothers and sisters, because I've been pulled up on saying guys. So to you brothers and sisters, you know, I could go over the same thing over and over again, because there's so much gems in this. But I will forward a little bit to where it says, always let your mission be to make man good. Now, what a great mission is that, brothers and sisters. And when we say man, we're not just talking about men, because, you know, I heard somebody ask me the other day, oh, what is the position of women in the UNI? I looked at them and said, what do you mean? What's the position of men in the UNI? We don't ask what's the position of men. So why are you coming to ask me what is the position of women? We are one family. We are moving as one. There is no position for women and there is no position for men. We are all here to liberate our race, and equally so we do it. in whatever fashion, wherever we feel that we can be best used, we are used in those situations or those positions, brothers and sisters. So he goes on to say, leadership in good character must make sacrifice to raise man from the lowest depths. And what do I say, sister Nyasha? You must love our people more than they hate themselves. We have to, a good leader, yeah, raises the sleeping people, as they say. You know, we talk biblically. We talk about Christ saying to Lazarus, wake up from the dead. Lazarus wakes up. Lazarus wakes up and he's still got on his dead clothes. Christ sends him back into the grave, brothers and sisters, and tells him to come back again without the graven images or the graven clothes. So we have to redeem ourselves, brothers and sisters, you know, and wake ourselves up, even though a great leader is only as good as his followers, brothers and sisters. You know, we talk about education, you know, we talk about work, and I said it the other day. I believe it was Mark Twain that came up with the phrase, we can't let their work stop us from our work. I was on the plantation and I still had to set up this call, make my way home, and join the call when I can, because nothing can stop what we're trying to do here, brothers and sisters. No work from master can stop this work. We have to be committed to whatever we say we're committed to, brothers and sisters. But also, I will say this, you know, we cannot live in the past. We can study the past and learn from it, but we must create history, brothers and sisters, that the future generations can look upon us like we're looking upon Garvey, like many of us look upon the Egyptians or the Kemits about what they're doing and say, wow, look what these brothers did. Make them marvel at what we're trying to do now. Wow, we're gonna have a Liberty Hall in London. Wow, look how the building is beautiful, it's marvelous. The sisters, they're wonderful. The brothers are wonderful. We have a brilliant brothers and sisters in the UNIA. Let the world see that. And when the world see that, everybody will be flocking around us. We won't have to be seeking membership at that point, brothers and sisters. The membership will be coming in by the hundreds, by the thousands, because they will see the work that we're doing, and they will want, and naturally, people want to join a winning team. You know, we talk about glory hunters when they're supporting football teams or basketball teams, they support the winners. We must be the winners, brothers and sisters. And with this knowledge here, you cannot be a loser. It's impossible for you to be a loser with this book in your hand, brothers and sisters. If you're failing, it's not because of this book, it's because of you. You have all the tools to be successful. We must be successful, brothers and sisters. I don't know what else I can say. But I will end with this one before I open back up the forum. Garvey says, as you shouldn't expect another man to give you clothing that you need to cover your own body, so you should not expect another race to give you education. You know, there was a quote by I believe it was Frances Cress Wilson, but I do believe she got it from Nellie Fuller, that if you don't understand white supremacy and how it works, the little bit that you understand will only confuse you.
Yep. And that was Nellie Fuller that she borrowed. Yep. But yeah, you're right about that. And you know, Mr. Garvey's focused on racial education, which is a little different from African-centered education, which is, you know, it's cool, it has its place, but when he focuses on racial education, it's a racial psychology that undergirds our education. In fact, the UNIA did a play once called Talibu back in 1922, and it was I don't know if I guess I haven't sent that to you all over in the UK, but I have the script to Talibu. In fact, I'll quickly mention that Tony Martin and I had talked one time, I guess back in early 2000s, and I had been reading about the play, and so I asked him if he had a copy of it. And he said, man, I've been looking for that play for 30 years, haven't been able to find it. So I say, oh, I haven't either. So let me take a look. You know, I looked the next day, I called him up and said, check your email. I just sent you a transcript of the play. And he's like, what? I've been doing them for 30 years and you found it in one day? But it's a story how I got lucky to find it one day at the Library of Congress by happenstance. But anyway, I always think about that when I think of Talibu. But yeah, but Talibu was a play that was said to best reflect the ideals of the association, and it really wasn't even mostly about the race. It was actually a play about a woman who was a Native American woman named Talibu, and she was on a reservation where the quote unquote Indian reservations in the U.S. Where a lot of the Indian children were forcibly placed in order that the Europeans would educate their children to think like them and act like them and to speak like them and to, follow their uh, interests and pursuits. So, but the native people on reservation were building their own school. They were like, nah, we pass on that. We don't want you teaching our children anything. And so in her fight and demand for that, she had a black accountant who was also championing her cause. And anyway, it made the storyline interesting because in the end, the two were romantically interested and came to find out Talibu was actually half black. So anyway, it was long. But it's an interesting story. But it taught a lot in that story about the value of us teaching ourselves and making sure that we don't go for the little Sambo jokes, and we don't, believe that the angels and everybody is white, and that all heroes were white, and none of the folks in Africa ever did anything, and that we need to just look to them for philosophy, for math, for every science and thing that we have. We can look to our own, and we have a proud history. So, but learning racial education, even if you don't go into the speaking Swahili and learning about certain other things culturally, if you at least understand from a psychological perspective your racial best interest and how to value yourself and how to see yourself with in your own image, beauty in your own image. Going back to the perfection thing, see good and perfection in yourself. If you see yourself as a loser, I absolutely promise you, you will become one. But if you see yourself as perfect, see yourself as a winner, see yourself as being successful, and you keep that focus, you'll definitely accomplish everything you will, because that's your determination. As a man thinketh, so is he. Or I should say, as a person thinketh, so are they. So think ourselves to be the best we can be, and work hard at it. And I'm sure we'll accomplish everything we will. But yeah. So anyway, just wanted to mention that, and keep in mind when dealing with the education of man. And again, this is Mr. Garvey was talking about this long before the miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. I mean, decades before. But he once said the education is the medium by which the people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and glory of their own race. So as we educate ourselves about man, let us educate ourselves about ourselves and our legacy and our history. And like Brother Commissioner Majaliwa was saying, we can learn from the past, but we can't live in the past. And you can't count yesterday's points on the day's scoreboard. So we have to work to, show ourselves approved in this day and age and accomplish, in this day and time what our ancestors before us accomplished in their day. So anyway, I just close on that thought.
Yes, sir. Before I introduce our brother Amani, I wanted to say the point I was making is that we can't expect these people to educate us, because if we expect them to give us the education for us to liberate ourselves, for us to free ourselves, we'll be a damn fool. But greetings, my brother. How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much, my brother Malik. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you live and clear, brother.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, greetings, family. And thank you, Malik, for the invitation. I'm not now a member of the UNI, but let's give you a little background of myself. I've been a Garveyite over the last 30 years. I've followed the message to the people as my guide, philosophies and opinions, but messages to the people have been my guide socially, educationally, religiously, economically, and everything. So I've put that into practice as best I can. And this is 30 years on. I've been a part of numerous different organizations. I've worked with most Pan-Africanist, African fundamentalist organization and group, Afrocentrics. But my primary objective is to help to share with people and spread with people Garvey's message, and to be that example in the 21st century, to see, so people can see what um, adhering to Marcus Garvey's teachings and philosophy actually equates to and culminates to in a human being. So as I've said, I've tried my hardest to put into practice his teachings in all the different aspects of life. So now I'm at the stage now where I'm about to put in and start an organize. Well, I've already started a ministry which is going to deal specifically with the religious and the spiritual aspects of Garvey's teaching. But I still want to, obviously, as a matter of urgency, deal with the social, the educational, and the economical objective set out by Garvey in this time. So that's my background. And why I wanted to get involved is because it is a very beautiful debate that I'm hearing, and more than what I hear from most people. The key thing is what I'm hearing, and I think we're all realizing that it is Garvey speaking to us. We are the Garveyites. We are the people who are following Garvey. We are the people who are saying that Garvey is this great person, this prophet, and all these things. We are. And that book, The Message to the People, is written to us. So therefore, it is through we emanating that other people will get to see what the power of Garvey is. It cannot happen any other way. So when he's talking about the man, for me, I understand fully. I trust nobody on earth, not my wife, nobody. You understand? I follow what Garvey says, as I say. The only person I trust on this earth who is no longer here is my mother. You understand? Anybody else on planet Earth, not my brothers, not my sisters, nobody I don't trust. You understand? I don't even trust myself. I trust in God to guide me in the right way I'm supposed to be guided. And this is what I get from Garvey.
Yes,
But what I'm saying is, for me personally, it's important that a key word that I don't hear used enough when it comes to Marcus Garvey, which I think is the fundamental lesson that he taught us, is that we are sovereign beings, sovereigns. So every single decision that we make, we must make them decisions. So this is why we need to have information to be able to make those decisions, with information that can help us to make those decisions right. Also, just to also continue upon that same premise, when we're dealing with man, we must become that man that Garvey is telling us that we must aspire to be in order to create this civilization and create that organization and to mobilize our people. We who are Garveyites, we who carry the mantle, we who say we are going to be leaders in our community, we have to be these things first before we can look at what anybody else is doing. When we are doing that, according to what I learned from Marcus Garvey, we won't have to be so interested and worried about what other people are doing and why they're doing it and what their motives are. So this is, I just wanted to, this is why I came into this, guy. I've heard it, I hear it, and that's where I am. I want to follow Garvey. I want people to follow Garvey. I have many different and people who I aspire to and I love dearly in the African struggle. But Marcus Garvey is the person who has guided me and who I look to, and who I think is the only person who has presented us with a tool and the mechanisms in order to liberate ourselves. So the last thing I'm going to say, one other thing which is fundamental to how we get educationally aware and how we form our own societies and how we form our own ideologies and theologies and all our structures is through what I believe, what I've taken on board from Marcus Garvey from the beginning, is seeing everything through the spectacles of Ethiopia. That has been so important for me. And I have been teaching that for 30 years. We need to see things through the spectacles of Ethiopia. So no matter what it is, no matter where it is in this creation, if it's science, if it's religion, if it's social, if it's political, if it's educational, whatever it is, whatever we learn, we need to filter it through the spectacles of Ethiopia. And that is my main principle that I think we need to come to understand and teach our people. It is how we are looking at things, the perspective, the frame of reference, where we're coming from. You understand? It is where we are at that is determining where we are going and where we are looking from. God be trying to change our vision, change our focus, stop thinking about what they're doing. Not to say we don't have to know what they're doing, but that is not our concern. How is what they're doing? How can we use what they're doing to help us? That is the whole of the lesson to the people. How do we use their propaganda, turn it around to help us? So the only way we can do that is when we are looking at it through the spectacles of Ethiopia, which I think is a key message in Garvey's teaching. So we are not only sovereign beings, but we are sovereign beings who see everything as we are supposed to see it according to how we have been created by the supreme intelligence in the universe, who we call the one God of Africa. We will not be able to move ourselves forward. We will not be able to interpretate nothing in this earth in regards to information and knowledge unless we are able to put on our Ethiopian spectacles and interpret it through those lenses. That's my further word. You can hear I'm a preacher and I love Garvey, so this is why I have to say something. But hopefully you'll get an understanding of what type of person I am, and what I'm trying to, like yourself, what is my objective in the earth. So I just wanted to add that into the debate. Thank you very much for giving me this time.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Sorry, Mr. President. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna extend a great Garvey Day to my beloved brother. Definitely, and by the way, we don't debate, we relate. And yeah, those of us who here, we have one mind, and or we can all have some kind of differences, but when it comes to Garveyism, yeah, we all on the same page. And when it definitely, I wanted to mention to you that according to UNIA Constitution, every member of the race is a member of the UNIA.
Yes,
Even if they,
Definitely.
they haven't may not have paid the dues, so they're not a card carrying dues paying member. But if you're a member of the
I'm
race
active.
and the Garveyite, brother, you are in. So
I'm not active. I'm not active. I should have used the word active. I
there
fully
you go.
understand the conversation. I'm not active. I know I'm a member. Everybody is a member, but I'm not active.
That's right.
I
That's
Should
right.
have
won't,
Okay.
I won't be for too
Thank
long,
you for
though.
that
That,
clarification.
Brother Amani, that won't be for too long, I hope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't stay on the outside too long. We need you in this confraternity.
100%. 100. We need his wisdom. We need it. We definitely.
Yeah, but he
But
made it.
brother, I think in this, I think I'll become like the George Maguire.
Yes.
I think
No
I'll be like the
problem.
George Maguire because I've got a specific objective to achieve in this earth today, and which comes directly from God's Spirit, which is to show people what God teaches us, what He tells us, and how we should perceive Christ, God, the Bible, Christianity, religion, and God, everything. So I want to push that message of Garvey because I think that's lost to the world. I think people don't understand what Garvey was teaching spiritually. I think they've actually hidden it from the earth. So we don't have Garvey's spirit. So I'm not saying that that's the only thing that people need to know. I think it needs to be a part of the debate when we're dealing with Garveyism. When we're dealing with Garveyism, and I cannot, and this is the problem that I think Garvey had as well. It cannot be part of the movement itself because it will alienate people who are not of that faith system which I'm about to bring into the earth. So that will be a debate as we go forward. I had a conversation with Malak earlier on today upon the same issue. I understand totally how the UNIA works, but I did actually contact the UNIA in Philadelphia a few times in the past to become active. I've recently become in communication with Stephen in the UNIA in Kingston as well. But because I'm now in the process, as I'm saying, of putting forward what I think I've been come here to do, and there will be a kind of like different way in which we will engage with the UNIA, what I'm doing, and myself personally. Because that is where the dilemma comes in, because it's hard to mix the two of them together, the spiritual, which is personal, and the social, which is collective. Um, so we will look definitely, and I will definitely be a part of the movement and a member, whatever active. But I think there needs to be a strategic debate upon how these two fractions or these two things are brought together to have the impact that they, I think it needs the two of them in order to move it forward. I think this is a major problem of UNIA and the African Orthodox Church in the beginning as well, and why it needs to be formed. And these are things that I think that we should have this debate as we go forward on a level that needs to come from people like us who've seen what's happened and experiencing what's happening now, and how can we work together to try and bridge some of these, I think, barriers and blockages. Yeah, so definitely I understand the whole
Yes.
makeup of the
Well,
NIA. Um,
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say I hear you, and I appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom, and I think you put a lot of thought into it. And yeah, well, there were some institutionally political things that went on during that era. But I mean, the UNIA is an ecclesiastical association. We're guided by righteousness. We're not indifferent to spirituality. And while we don't have a declared religion, and we're not a religious order, spirituality is part of the mission. Protect our spirit, to enrich our spirit, to make sure we like you said, seeing the world through our own spectacle. And so, we're not going to deify any whiteness and vilify blackness subconsciously, because we don't have any spiritual understanding of the propaganda that's being waged against us, but we've been psychologically embedded with these sorts of westernized thoughts and ideas, so that many of us can't see anything good in ourselves. We have to really come with a different mindset. So many of the rituals you'll notice were put together by the Honorable George Alexander McGuire. Many of the songs were, written by Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford and other spiritual leaders who were members of the association. So, there's something we certainly can infuse. Again, like I say, we're not going to tell anybody they can't practice Islam as long as they come from a race first perspective, or they can't practice, Hebrew or Judaism or some other thing. So I mean, it's not a religious thing, but we share the same spiritual beliefs. Mr. Garvey and McGuire were, joined at the hip virtually at one point, and they all were on the same wave. 1924 convention was powerful, but but definitely, I welcome you to the fold if you so choose, and we'd love to have you. You sound like a strong Garveyite, so we need as many strong Garveyites in the fold to develop that universal African confraternity that we're one of our first objectives. So I certainly, as President General, would love to have you on board, and pleasure to meet you. I did want to talk though, mention something briefly, because we were talking about the education of man, and I was thinking about how certain people saw Mr. Garvey that I thought was interesting as we talked about the education of man. I was thinking about who was that first? Well, one of the people I was thinking about was Reverend Dr. Arnold Hamilton Maloney, who was Assistant Chaplain General at one point. But he made this point about Mr. Garvey one time when we talk about the course. I always kind of keep this in mind, but he made this statement, and I quote, this is back in 22. He said, "I wonder how many have stopped to observe that as a factor in the general education of the Negro race, the philosophy of Marcus Garvey is one of the mightiest influences ever realized or ever released, excuse me. In the life of Marcus Garvey, men have noted the fire of the prophet, the astuteness of the statesman, the conviction of the propagandist, the magnetism of the general. But few men have noted the erudition of the educator." And as we look at this lessons, these 42 lessons originally, yes, the 42 principles of Ma'at, we see this school of African philosophy that's similar to the Kemetic Mystery School, had we been able to keep it private. This is a powerful tool that we need to wake up our race all over the globe and help them wake one another up, everywhere we are, until we have a race, of scientists par excellence, the race of Garveyites who are Marcus Garvey is personified, who can think not only in analyze situations, but synthesize new thoughts and ideas to help address our needs today. And the more we study this material, as the Honorable Commissioner Montaleva said, the more we will succeed. This Garveyism is the gospel of success. So we in the right place, studying the right thing, talking with the right people to make magic happen right now. So I'm just excited to be on the call.
I actually I don't know, well, you're not going to know, but what I did, I will send a video of the graduation, and what I did in 2019, and from June the 27th, I delivered the message to the people over 7 weeks. I had well, I originally started with 22 professionals from all different backgrounds, men and women. I started with 22. I finished with 19. Each one of them graduated. So I actually put the lessons to the people into a syllabus and into a curriculum, with assignments and things like that, and systems of how to obviously, because at the time I was working at a college, so I was able to use those systems to develop the lesson. And I call it garbage soap. Garbage soap, that's the name I call it, garbage soap. So it's Garbage School of African Philosophy, but I call it garbage soap. So that will be I'll send you the video, and each one of you can get a video. So that is something that we can look at, that you can possibly, we can work towards to see how we can. And that was my whole objective. My whole objective, what I did, and when I was starting, what I did, I delivered the course first. I trained, as I say, 19 people and completed and graduated to a standard that I thought was applicable to what I was about to try and achieve. And then I started an organization called 21st Century Garveyism. 15 of the 19 graduates became part of that organization and movement. And we then went on a 3-month training program as to how to use, and we went through the curriculum, to the constitution and bylaws of the UNIA. We also went through the constitution of the EWF, and we went through that over 3 months just to prepare those 15 individuals to then take the positions necessary to move our people forward. So that was the process that I was going to use. Nobody was going to become a part and take any part in any executive position in my organization unless they had completed a full course on garbage soap and graduated. If they didn't graduate, they could not become executives. And we have to take that kind of approach. And when we're dealing with Marcus Garvey, because Marcus Garvey is is very, very, he had to be so open, because at the time he didn't have people who had the education, had access to the education, access to the skills, access to the finances and things like that. So he was a bit tolerant and so forth, but we all know that he was fundamental to structure, order, and standards is very important. So just to add into that what you're saying, I have a tool that's created that can be used by all UNI branches, divisions, and chapters to help train obviously potential executives, officers to take the positions, because they need to have certain kind of background information, even at a starting level, to understand who they must become to lead the people. Because right now we have people who are leading us, and there is no way of verifying that they have the right credentials, the right mindset, and have come through any system. So there is no accountability to them. And I think this is where we can have a difference. You and I definitely try to make a difference, in which we were producing leaders for our communities, and not, just obviously electing people and putting people into positions that we ourselves are not sure that they have the right characteristics and the right mindset in order to bring forward what we are trying to bring. So I just want to add and offer that out and put that out there. When we finish, everybody can contact me. I'll send you the graduating video so you can see what types of people graduated, and I will put it across. So that's available to the UNIA.
I love that. I really love that. I think it really will help to strengthen what we're here to do, who we are, what Marcus Garvey did, and just have more support, and know that we've been through a course to be able to know that, it solidifies basically what Marcus Garvey set out to do and what we need to continue to do going forward. So I really love that. And I look forward to seeing the information and the videos and how we can get involved in that as well. So yeah, and I hope that you're going to become a member real soon, Brother Imani.
Yes. Well,
Active
as I say,
member,
we'll have that
learn from
debate.
what we're doing.
Definitely. But as I say, what's it created for? As the president said, I already know that I'm a member of this organization. I'm just not active. So when I create these things, who is it created for? It's not created for the EWF. It's not created for the Pan African Congress movement or the Nation of Islam or whoever else. It's created for yourself. When I find out the right people, then that's why it's there.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
That's ours.
yes. I think
We definitely need a chaplain in our division, for definite.
Mhm.
Me too,
100%.
Yes,
Sister
100%,
Christy.
man. These things are available. These things are available. We're in very critical times now. Our backs against the wall. This is where we're at. But we who are on this thing now, I can talk freely. We are totally confident. We are totally confident in Marcus Garvey's teaching. Totally confident.
Yeah,
You understand?
100%.
And
100%.
100%, I can hear it. That's why I can talk freely. I'm not really normally in an environment like this because people also have other intentions. We also have other agendas as well. But in this forum, I can hear this is about Marcus Garvey. So you see the faith that we have. That's what our people need to have. That's the only way we're going to move forward. You see the faith that we have in ourselves. That's the only way. If our people don't have that faith, it's not going to work. You
100%.
understand?
And sorry
So
to
what
cut you, Sister Nasha. I know you were saying something. My apologies.
No, no, no. You never cut my
so
wisdom. I was just saying, Sister Kushti's on the call. Welcome, but I just want to reiterate that absolutely, I'm loving what Brother Amani just said, and I think that we really need to embrace that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm just saying, welcome to Sister Kushti, Elsie.
Okay. Welcome, Sister Kush.
Great Garvey Day, family.
Great Garvey Day to you too. What's your take on this discussion of man today?
Yeah, very interesting. There's a lot of points, so it wouldn't be. I'd probably take out the rest of the time to go through them all. But yeah, very interesting points. Yeah,
You're not gonna give us nothing. You just no worries, my sister. When you're ready for timing, chime in, no problem.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention too. I definitely appreciate the words and wisdom of Brother Imani, and pointing out also the professional qualifications needed, even as a precursor to honestly administering the course, because many don't realize that this is an accelerated course. This was not meant for the lay person. These were people who were the first class anyway, were hand selected by Mr. Garvey. People who had already led divisions that were 40,000 members strong, who had traveled and represented Mr. Garvey all over the globe, and who were prepared and ready to lead, who were already leading. And so he knew of their character, he knew of their knowledge base and understanding. So he felt prepared to instill in them for 30 days and nights, this lesson, and that they would embrace it fully. And, all of them continued on to be members of the parent body on some level after graduation. All of them served in honorable capacities over the decades following that until the actual last living student, Mr. Honorable Charles L. James. So um, the course was successful, and it was very important that people of right character, because as Mr. Garvey mentioned in this lesson, you don't want to give too much knowledge to a fool, because the same gunpowder that was used to excavate holes in mountains and dig out minerals from the earth, somebody else took this same technology and found ways of killing mass numbers of people and murdering everybody. And even the nuclear technology was meant to, create energy and power plants. Folks directed it straight to how to, wipe out whole nations if they could, with this technology. So, yeah, if you get the power in the hands of the wrong people, you put too much knowledge in their hands, they'll take it and use it against you. So it's important that we definitely have to, be mindful of the character of the people we share this kind of power and knowledge with, as well as making sure we uh, have all the prerequisites needed to really thoroughly understand the topic and apply them, proper in the proper format as leaders of the association. Because we really have to take this thing seriously. As the brother mentioned, brother Imani mentioned, about this planet is at a very critical time where the planet is somewhat getting smaller every day. The finite resources of the planet are limited, and those who want those things and desire the things in nature are going to have to fight feverishly to acquire and preserve and protect those things for their people, for their race, or else you're going to be on the other side, left to die. So those of us who want to be sovereign and independent, is what's the name? Sister Marimba Ani once said Mr. Garvey was the fulfillment of the African ancestral sovereignty imperative. And things are quite imperative at the moment that we organize ourselves in such a fashion that we can, regulate the world economy. All we have to do is help spark, as Mr. Garvey tried, an industrial and technological revolution on the continent of Africa. And, that's where all the mineral wealth of the planet, that's where all the animals, every, plant, everything we need, gold, diamonds, lithium, bauxite, cobalt, everything that runs the world is in Africa. And so, if we redeem our souls and then redeem, and recover Africa for African people, yeah, we'd have everything we need to, be fully in control of our destiny and, provide for one another. But if we forsake that and let ourselves get fooled by propaganda, again, like I said a little earlier, making us think that some of our friends are our enemies and enemies are our friends, then we're going to be lost and turned out and exploited, in every turn. And, we're not in the minority in this world. No, we just not outnumbered, just out organized. Not poor, just poorly organized. So, organization is our greatest enemy. And it's time we conquer that with some true unadulterated Garveyism. So once again, I'm happy to be on the phone with some Garveyites of like minds, unblind, and I pass the mic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's always good to be in great company with fellow Garveyites, of course. Of course. So all right, we're moving towards the last, I don't know, 24 minutes of the discussion. I wanna bring it right back into the topic of hand, man, lesson 11. You know, like I said, these lessons are here for our upliftment. So although we're going through them on a Sunday, we're discussing it. These things need to be read in the week. This particular book, I've read this book maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 times. I've got about 5 different copies of this book. This is actually the first book I've ever read in my whole life. Before I read this book, I didn't know no book. I might have read, what's that book in school? Mice and Men? Is that what it was called? I might have read a chapter in that, or it's a little bit of Shakespeare, just part of my school curriculum. But I never had a book in my house. This was actually the first book I ever had in my library, or my truth berry. But we're not burying it no more. But yeah, so this book is very important to me. And I hope that the brothers and sisters will read the book and they will find that love for this book that I have, because there's something in this book for everybody. I know that someone was in the chat was talking about the trust element of your partner. It's not about not trusting your partner, beloveds. It's just about not trusting human beings. It's not about not trusting your wife or not trusting your husband or anything like. It's just about, Garvey was just trying to show you that we mustn't trust people blindly. We mustn't love people blindly. This is how we get hurt. In this book, Garvey talks about when you're finding a partner, he says that you must go for somebody with the majority of your morals and the majority of your principles, because after the passion is gone, and I like to add on, after the macking is done, you'll be left with a broken heart, because you'll be looking for somebody with the majority of your morals and your principles. Now, brothers and sisters, there's a lot of people in our community that are single parents, whether it be a man or a female. And if they had read these principles, maybe they wouldn't have got into that situation that they got themselves into. Maybe they might have still done, because everybody's on their own journey. But at the same time, applying wisdom is about doing risk assessments. And you assess the risk, brothers and sisters. And Garvey gave us those tools. We didn't listen. This message to the people book is like a Quran, a Bible. I sit down sometimes and I just marvel how Garvey knew this stuff. And especially in those times, how did this man come up with this course? How did he come up with these words? I'm not even talking about his speeches right now, brothers and sisters, because that's a whole different kettle of fish, as they would say, because it's just marvelous. But this book, how did he really think about these things? I wouldn't have told my son these things. I wouldn't have thought about these things to tell my son. But now I have this book. I can give this book to my son and we can go through it together when he reaches of age. He has his own copy already. He's only 6. Oh, so my apologies. He's now 7. But he has his own copy of the book. My daughter has her own copy of the book. You know, I encourage them to read it, even though my son is only 7, he can read it. He might not understand it, but we're training them from young. You know, over time he will begin to develop the understanding. But we must teach our children, because ultimately they are the future for us. They are the ones that's, after we build the UNIA in the UK and in Europe, they are the ones that are going to inherit this. And they're going to stand on the shoulders of giants, just like we're standing on the shoulder of Marcus Messiah Garvey, and he is a giant. I always tell people, I don't call Garvey a prophet. Not that he isn't, because he prophesied a lot of things. I just leave him as a normal man so that we can say we can do it, because Garvey taught us that anything that man has done before, man can do it again. So everything that Garvey had accomplished, we can accomplish that too if we apply these lessons. The same race first teachings, what Brother Amani was talking about. Look, even look when you're talking about God through Ethiopian spectacles. You must look at your God through your own eyes. If the European sees it fit to see his God as a European, if the Chinese sees fit to see his God as a Chinese, then the black man too must see his God as an African, brothers and sisters.
Indeed.
It's all go ahead, sister.
No, just saying indeed, indeed. And I was going to say as well, I was asking the same question to myself when I came on the call earlier on. How does he know these things? But I asked myself that periodically anyway. And
Mhm.
somebody just said to me, his middle name was Messiah. You just read it out. His middle name was
Mhm.
Messiah. That holds a lot of weight. He was obviously somebody that could prophesy things.
100%.
And
That's
this
why.
is why he was a special person. And that's why he, in a way, he is our king. In a way,
100%.
I
Not in
don't
a
believe.
way. Not in a way. The right way,
Well,
sister.
Yeah, I
can I
say that. I say that in a sense that I don't believe that anybody is more than anybody else.
Mhm.
Just that's why I say it like that. But in a
Mhm.
way, in terms of if we were to look to a king, you know, that would be our king as our race first brother. Marcus Garvey did it. And there's many that want to pull him down and say, oh, he didn't do enough and he didn't do this. But do you know what he was trying to do? Because if you know the philosophy of what he was trying to do, then maybe you shut your mouth on the rest of the things that he,
100%,
he
sister.
may or may not have done. Because you have to seek to understand, like you said. And when you understand what he was trying to do, then you'll get the whole thing. And he tried. He tried, and our people pulled him down. The man died of a heart attack in his 50s. It's a heavy
52.
weight to carry.
Let's
A
see.
lot for one person to carry. And look at the magnitude of what he achieved.
Marvelous. Brilliant.
You have to call
Brilliant.
him a king.
Excellent.
Can I just say? Can I just
Go
say
ahead.
this? Can I just say this? Yes, for me personally, it's a bit different because I will just say clearly and outrightly that Marcus Garvey was sent by the supreme intelligence in the universe, the one God of Africa, the one God of Ethiopia. That is who sent Marcus Garvey to us, not to Europeans, not to Jews, not to Chinese, not to Semites or to Hebrews, to us African people who had been crying out for to our God for hundreds of years. You understand? As it said that we would do. You understand? For hundreds of years to send us somebody who could lead us out of this wilderness, and it was achieved. So for me, I do not negate the fact that it was something that was prayed for by my ancestors then before that time, and it was fulfilled in the person of Marcus Garvey. So I personally, and I will
That's
teach
a
it to
fact.
anybody on this earth, you understand, that Marcus Garvey is sent by the supreme intelligence in the universe, the one God of Africa, to us. I don't care who wants to accept it. I don't care who believes it, who does not believe it. That's of no concern to me. No other person believed the Hebrew prophets but the Hebrews. No other Muslim prophets believed the Muslims but the Arabs and so forth. So I am taking the same exact approach with Marcus Garvey. He is sent by my God to us, and I don't have to ask anybody or seek any form of authorization or
Or approval.
clarification
Mhm.
or anything to do with anybody on earth. And if black people don't want to accept that, that's between them and that God when they meet him. You understand? Because if they don't know who they are, you understand, then that is not down to me. Garvey don't know all that he could do to teach them. I that is now in my hands. Am I gonna be what I learned? That's what I said that's what I said earlier. It's on us now because we know. You understand? But I am definitely gonna say he is a prophet of God. Whoever you want to call that God, whatever you want to call him, He is a prophet of God, and that is why he was able to do the things that he did and achieve the thing that he achieved. And I will say, no other human being on planet Earth that I know, and I'm a historian also, no other human being that I know on planet Earth outside of mythology, even those in mythology, did not achieve what this man achieved in his lifetime. Nobody. Understand? So I would say that can only because our sisters them prayed, bled, cried to our God, send us a deliverer. That's Marcus Garvey. So I want to put that in there. I'm very passionate about when it comes to Marcus Garvey. I'm going to put that in there. That's my view of it. Why you can do what he did.
Well, that view is heavily shared, my brother, and I definitely appreciate all that everybody said. I mean, yeah, certainly Mr. Garvey didn't want us to deify him, but we certainly know that he may have been an ordinary man, but he had extraordinary convictions. And he was certainly divinely prepared, as he himself said in writing Book of T, that he was on a mission from the Most High God. And when Mr. Garvey came on the scene in 1887, he was the answer to the great Berlin Conference, that Berlin decree that sank us on the continent of Africa. His mother and father knew he was going to be great when he was born, because they had a debate whether to call him Moses or the Messiah. So they called him both. And he was raised and praised by a mother and father. A mother he thought was too good for the world in which we lived, and a father who was brilliant leader amongst the race, organizer with Paul Bogle and Moore Bay Rebellion, etc. So he grew up in the right place, the right time, with the right people, in the right situation, and became the greatest leader to ever grace our race, the standard bearer of success under duress, who was blessed to do more with less. And I thank God every day for the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey in every way, unapologetically. In fact, when I say I have unmitigated faith in God, that God is Garveyism or death, as far as I'm concerned. That's the only way
I
we're
would
going
say
to get
exactly
ahead.
the same thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So anyway, I just wanted to express my absolute agreement with you and everybody else on the call. This is the greatest leader, the master architect, chief engineer, the most comprehensive blueprint for Black Power ever designed and constructed. And we'll be the fools not to follow that to the letter. So I don't know if you wanted me to close uh, the honorable host, or you wanted a few more comments in.
Yeah, we still got
Oh,
about
15 minutes.
15
Okay.
minutes. Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
Good.
15 minutes. But I will add that what Brother Armani was saying, that even when you read about the time of when we was in chattel slavery, the women would be praying for a child that will come and lead our people out of slavery. And if we look at the history, no man has done what Marcus Garvey has done. No man. No man has seek to unify all African people into one banner. No man has done that anywhere. And if you can show me that, man, please do, because I haven't seen it. And like Brother Omani said, I've studied history too, and I ain't seen a man as great as this, regardless of color. That's Chinese, that's white, that's Indian. I've not seen no man do what Garvey has done.
Yeah.
None.
Not only that, yeah, Moses hadn't even led but 3,000 people out of Egypt.
That's
Or
3,000.
3 million.
Try 400 million at that time.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting you point that out though, because um, when you think about the greatness of this man to be able to establish an African world empire in the citadel of white supremacy. They actually form a plebiscite where Africans from 40 countries all over the globe were able to assemble, pack a Madison Square Garden in mass capacity, 10-mile parade going through the streets of Harlem. And each person who represented as a delegate at that convention, where it was 25,000 inside, another 15,000 standby delegates reportedly on the outside, that's 40,000 people, all represent 1,000 people in their community who had to sign them off as being a delegate. That represents 40 million of the 400 million people of the world when you do the math together. So this man really called a quorum of the race together like nobody before or after has ever been able to do. So you have to marvel at the accomplishment of this man, despite all these world governments who were trying to destroy him. They stoned him, they incarcerated him, they shot him. They threw him in jail everywhere he went, persecuted him every way you could. They blew up Liberty Halls. They put people in jail for life for having the Negro World newspaper on them. did everything they could to try to destroy this man and this movement, and they couldn't do it. Marcus Garvey told them jail could go to hell as far as he was concerned. He was going to keep preaching the gospel of Garveyism until he died, and he died with his boots on. So we got to be proud and honor that great man and every ounce of our being to the death, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but can I just add as well, just quickly to that, just add quickly to that. We have to remember also that what he did, which is different to any other leader and any other figure in history, he galvanized people who were Muslims, Christians, Jews, African spiritualists,
Everybody.
Democrats, Republicans, Liberal, everybody. Nobody's done that.
Nobody's
Nobody's
left
done that.
behind.
Nobody's done that, not even close to that. Read history. It's galvanized people who speak thousands of languages, hundreds of different languages, you understand? Across the planet. Nobody has done that. You understand? He reached them in his time, in his lifetime. Nobody has done that. Not after when he's gone, like what has happened with religions and other major figures in history. After they've gone, people spread their message to the four corners of the world. God done it in his time. Check history. And who he galvanized is unheard of. Christian, Muslims, Jews, non-believers, atheists, African spiritualists. He galvanized people across the spectrum. This is something that we as Garveyites, we need to really take on board. How do we achieve that? How do we provide a doctrine which will sit in a way that could galvanize everybody, regardless of our faith system? That's what I think is key to what Garvey achieved. Key more than anything else, that he galvanized people of many different faith systems. You understand? Many different political persuasions, many different languages. That's key to understanding the influence and the importance and the significance of Garvey in humanity, in human history. I just wanted to say that because people sometimes, the expanse and the bigness of his organization, yes, but the dynamics, the demographics, the geographics, you understand, the linguistics, all these things that he achieved, people don't pay attention to that. That are the greatest achievements of any organizer on earth, of any leader, of any king on earth.
I just wanted to add as well to what Brother Imani was saying, but also what to Brother President was saying as well, that you know in the time of white supremacy, when lynching was at its peak, all they had to do was just take a man and hang him to a tree. Marcus Garvey escaped that. And that's how you know as well that he was special. There must have been something special about what he came. He came here to do the works that he did, even if it means that we have to continue it and he didn't get to do it in the full entirety that he wanted to. He was up against a lot, and a lot of it, okay, he got thrown in jail, but he could have been dead. And he was brave. You have to call him brave. And for that time, what they did to us not too long out of slavery, brave. But what I want to add to what Brother Mani said was that, you know, it's all great that we are coming together on a platform like this, or within our groups, our divisions, to continue the work. But we have to continue the work. We can't just be another group that is talking. We need to make sure that action is taken a part of, and if it means that we need to study faster to be able to move on, and everybody in the groups always knows that I don't feel great unless I'm doing, you know um that needs to take priority as well. Even if it's a balance of study and doing, we have to also do, otherwise we're just here talking. So just wanted to add that also.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, my sister. And I should say, Madam President. And yeah, it's also if you look at Mr. Garvey on a spiritual level, I mean, this is again how my elders introduced me to Garveyism, because they knew of his maroon heritage. They knew that he was one who could spiritually understand things on a serious level. And when you look at how he talked about looking for him in the whirlwind, which the whirlwind or the storm, that's channeling back to the Orishas, who had the power upon death to generate whirlwinds and storms and control nature. These Netru, etc. When you look at the channeling of Ma'at with the School of African Philosophy, with the 42 lessons, with even the ostrich feathers on his hat to symbolize Ma'at. When you look at him talking about how his brain was afire when he came out of England, where he conceived of the idea for the UNIA, and he had went to the ancestors, and the ancestors were telling him what to do, and he was, communing with them on that level, who were showing him or spiritually introducing or traveling with him through, the history of our continent, where he could know so much about ancient Kemet and how we had reduced the stars, the charting the stars to mere calculus, to how we were, doing certain things of great civilization we had long before these Europeans were, still buried, drinking out the skulls of their conquered dead and living with cats, bats, the rats in the caves, etc. But the way he saw things, the way he understood things and organized things in his mind to see the world that we can rebuild, the civilization that we can reestablish, was just so powerful, so undeniable, that I can't see how people can't grasp upon that and feel empowered by this transformative power of Garveyism. It's just so it's just so beautiful, I guess, to me. It's so empowering that to deny it is foolish.
Mhm. And to the sister, and what's the name? Natasha, is it? What was the name? Sorry, sister.
Ayasha.
Nyasha.
Nayasha. Okay, Nayasha. And for me personally, it's quite simple. I applaud exactly what you're saying, and I agree with exactly what you're saying. I'm exactly the same. I'm a doer. I'm ready to do straight away. I've already told people what I've got to offer and the type of thing I've got to offer. I'm here. I'm ready. Anytime we're ready, we move forward.
Yes, let's make it happen. Fill out a form, my brother. Become an active member. Let's do this.
Mhm.
Please.
But this is what I just said. If we're gonna have that debate after this. It's a longer debate than that because it's a lot of things that we have to deal with. That's a simple thing. That's a simple thing. It's a
Okay.
simple thing. You understand? That's a simple thing there.
We
That
give
can be
thanks.
easily
We
achieved.
have some very strong, leaders and members within our, United division. Everybody plays an absolute fantastic role, and
Mm-hmm,
it's just being able to cultivate that energy that we can continue to do the works that Brother Garvey set out for us to do. So it's
mm-hmm,
just pulling it all together and strengthening what we do day by day.
mm-hmm. Yeah, just put the shoulder to the wheel. That's what we got to do. Just put the shoulder to the wheel. But as
Yes,
I've
sir.
said, in that respect, it doesn't need. I mean, I've just offered what I've got. Whether I'm an active member, yes or no, I've just provided resources and tools that can be utilized, and I can work with people to start to put into whatever spectrum they think it or medium they think it's necessary to be in to do what they need to do with it. But as I'm just saying at the moment, I have a focus on a different objective that I've just started, so I can't think of anything else right now. I've just got to be thinking about that. But I will support whatever needs to be done at this time because I'm in this forum at this time. But I'm ready to do what needs to be done now. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, brother. That's really great. And I'm Sando.
Brother Sando, greetings, brother.
Yeah, man.
Greetings,
Great
brother.
Garvey night. Great Garvey night. And
Great Derby night to you too, sir.
what a great pleasure to hear all the intellectual conversations that we've had this evening. And it's been a pleasure and great learning. And I just thought I would step in because I know we ran out of time just to show that I'm here.
Mhm.
But thanks. Nice to meet you, Brother Amari. Thank you, President
Thank you very much.
General. Thank you, Commissioner.
No
And
problem.
obviously, sister, we thank you also for being in the meeting. And, yes, I'm overwhelmed by some of the conversations and obviously going through the message to the people. And I was amazed to hear that the commissioner's read it so many times at such a young age. And what I have to bear in mind, I had a conversation with you the other day, and I was telling you how I heard about Marcus Garvey at about 10, 11 years old. And at that age, we could only hear about him in songs. A lot of the books, a lot of the literature was not yet available. In fact, all through the 70s and the 80s, through all of the different movements, we really had to scour for books. We really had to scour for books and for information in those days. But we were convicted that we had seen enough and heard enough, and that the rest of it, the jigsaw puzzle, would fit in place. And I'm so I'm so happy to know that the information, and even I'll say to you, some of the information that I've actually getting access to now, I wasn't able to get access to before. I've been buying books for many, many, many years. But anyway, Nice to meet you, brother Amari. And I think all of us who has been touched by the spirit of Garvey, from whatever age, has grown with that spirit, and it's got to the point where we have to manifest that energy, that frequency, into a reality, a day-to-day liberty, a day-to-day practice. And individually, we can do a lot. Individually, we have done a lot over the years. For me, I think it's over 35, 40 years, in Garveyism and traveling to Africa and doing all sort of things. But the work never finishes. The work continues. And it's always a pleasure wherever I go in Africa, or wherever I go in the Caribbean, or wherever I go in America, wherever I go. It's always a pleasure to see the spirit of Garvey. And obviously the red, black, and green flying. And it's so comforting to know that we are part of. And we are anticipating, like I say, the Renaissance. We are anticipating that Renaissance, when that unity is once again rekindled and brought together as one functional unit, as it should be, as we've discussed in all of the documentations and the literature that Mr. Garvey has left us. And regardless of our individual contributions, I, for one, have come to the acceptance that without being part of, like you say, all of us have been Mark Garveyites all of our lives, all of our children's lives. So yes, but the realization that unless we come under that umbrella of the red, black, and green, unless we come under the constitution of that red, black, and green, and this, like you say, Amari, that all of the different aspects and the different spiritual aspects, whatever, are incorporated within that constitution. And is that, I think that all of us and the rest of us who are learning about Garvey, is that we have to conform and come into that constitution and abide by it and live it, for us to get the required results, like Mr. Garvey did in less than maybe just say 4 years. And whether it was by spiritual or whatever, I think it's just God given. When I say God given, I just think it's just universe given. And I think
Same thing.
we tend to put things and put spookism in. I think it's just universe given. Mr. Garvey, you can see from his height that he is from an indigenous. He went from one of the indigenous peoples of original peoples of Jamaica, and I can tell because of his height. And the indigenous people of Jamaica, they were short people. Some of them are shorter than Mr. Garvey. And if we go into all of the books, we read about the Twa and all these different things, or different ancestors that roamed the earth. We'll find that Mr. Garvey was born. We're all studying, but he was obviously of fifth DNA strand capability. Yeah. So we mystify things, but it, like you say, Mr. Garvey had mastered, by whatever means, that concept, that mastery, whether you want to call it Egyptian, Kemetic, African spirituality, whatever you want to call it. I think because we're coming through colonialism, they've spooked us out. They spooked us out from our godliness, from our divinity. And we tend to put it in categories, and obviously, through the European colonialist period. And that's what they're frightened of. That's what they really fear. And, like you say, Marcus Garvey has given us a constitution that we can develop those energies, those frequencies, those powers, regardless. Individually, yes, we can. Like the gentleman was saying earlier, yes, every one of us is a Garveyite. And if you don't know if you're a Garveyite by now, then you're not a Garveyite, unfortunately. But, it's that unity. It's that unity of fulfilling the constitution, every facet, every passage of that constitution is for the members and the people of the community to get involved in it, regardless whatever differences that we have, like we said earlier, to make this happen. And that's the only way that is going to happen. And I must say, having grown up in London and in Brixton during the late 70s and 80s, I would say it's one of the greatest pleasure to know that the UNAA ACL is functioning in London, and I didn't hesitate to join, regardless of my personal endeavors or what I have to offer. But the importance of us being together, the importance of us dropping our own personal egos and bringing it into the UNA ACL and putting it on the table is the goal. So I thank you for allowing me to speak.
No problem, brother Sando. And we thank you for becoming a part of the fraternity. We need everybody. You know, this is a family organization. It's going to take the family to change our conditions. So we all need it. Everybody plays a part. This is everybody's home. As the Constitution says, the UNIA is for all black people, and all black people are a member of the race, whether they signed up or not. They're a member of the fraternity. But we've gone over time. So at this point, I want to thank everybody for joining, and I'll let our President General lead us out.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. It's been a great program. I thank everybody for participating. Definitely want to let everybody know that the UNIA is on the rise. We are still facing the same obstacles, the same propaganda war that we know have done more to defeat the good intentions of races and nations and even open warfare. But we're still on the quest. We're still on a mission to educate our people, as the most honorable Marcus Garvey educated us, and to prepare us to see the world, as the brother Imani mentioned, through our own set of eyes, through our own the spectacles of Ethiopia. As they once said it back in the day, real eyes realize real lies. And so we keep our eyes open and we train ourselves to think in the interest of the race, we'll go far. But in closing, I just like to um, mention also that we are still, one of our aims is to promote the conscientious spiritual worship amongst the race. And so while all Garveyites have a general mission, we all have our own specific personal objectives, also that we need to, honor and fulfill. So they don't clash with the UNA, they only complement. We have a universal umbrella that can invite everybody underneath, to be a part of and work as one united force. So with that, I close with a message I think kind of summarize some of the thoughts I was getting from the message or the lesson for today. This is a quote of Mr. Garvey from February 2nd, 1924, when he was actually in Washington, D.C. at a church that was under renovation. He made this comment, and I want y'all to take it to heart. Mr. Garvey said, quote, "I give you a message of new education. Before you and I can get anywhere, we have to destroy the old psychology. That is my job. Before you can build, you have to destroy. Before I can put up a beautiful cathedral here, this old church, the pews and the walls, the rooms and the decorations will have to be destroyed because it stands in the way of new and beautiful cathedral. Before we can build a cathedral of Negro glory, we have to destroy the old buildings of white idolism." And so as we start thinking about this new education that we're starting to teach, this new appraisal of our situation and organizing ourselves to address our universal problems with universal solutions, as the most honorable Marcus Garvey prepared us for. So let us think about, oneness. Let us think about coming together and never forsaking the gathering of ourselves as we others have, but put that force and energy behind building the largest African mass movement the world has ever seen. And with that, I close with one God,
One God,
name,
one
One
aim,
aim,
One
one
aim,
destiny.
One destiny.
one destiny.
one destiny.